Hey, hello everybody. It's Lori and Lawrence, and we have Jim Galliano with us this week. And we're going to do something a little bit less serious than we usually do, a little more along the line of fun and entertainment, flat earth versus always looking for the elusive map. Oh, hold on a second. I got a backbeat coming in from someplace else. Okay, here we are. And so, welcome you guys. And we're in the middle of a, I guess, an international holiday known as Easter. And so some of you may not be able to even watch this live. You may be doing some kind of celebration with family and friends, but when this is over, it will archive, and then you can come back and watch it. So thanks for joining us, and we want to start out talking about a year in review is really what we're talking about here, or what we're thinking about. And the reason why we're doing a year in review is because that year is sort of denoted by when I myself and Jim got involved. Lawrence is in a couple years plus of investigating, researching Flat Earth. So, but the official kickoff of Flat Earth was about so-called February of 2015. So we're a little past that mark, but we haven't done a recap for a while. So we want to just go back and look at that. So we've come a long way, I think, in the last year with regards to the research that some of us have been doing. Not everybody's a flat Earth researcher. So, but that's just really not at all what all I want to talk about with these guys, or all of us. I just want to talk about some of the highlights and events and just a general feeling of the last year of Flat Earth. So, Jim, why don't you, for being, somebody that's not a regular on the show, why don't you jump in and say what you think sort of been your breakdown thoughts on Flat Earth in the year in review?
Well, it started out, there was a lot of people excited about everything that was going on in the beginning, new websites popping up, videos being made, people sharing on Facebook about it. It was very basic in the beginning, and as time went on, a little more details were added. I would say the waters got kind of muddied by late summer. Things started to change, at least what I noticed. And I didn't put the time or energy into the details like you or Lawrence did. I was more or less, if you look at it as like three rings, and the center being the people that are really keeping on top of absolutely everything that was going on in the Flat Earth movement, I would say I was probably somewhere between the second and the third ring out. Because once the excitement wore off and people started looking at the details, some things made sense, some things didn't make sense, and it seemed like people broke into camps. On the outside, maybe you had the people that didn't really need evidence or hard evidence about the Earth not being a round spinning ball. Some people were just happy with the fact that if you told them if a helicopter took off from the ground and the Earth was really spinning, then it could just remain stationary and the landscape beneath it would be moving. And that's all they needed. They didn't need anything else. That for them, that was enough. Other people were taking scriptures from the Bible and saying, well, that's enough proof. That's all I need. But then you had the people who were the next layer in, and these were the people that came up with the map, the original maps that are now proven to have issues and faulty, like the round map with the ice ring around it. And that group of people, that initial group, they were more like visual people. These were the people that were creating the videos, the people that were actually putting some visual information out there. And a lot of these people weren't technical people, they were just visual people. So the visual elements that they were putting out there didn't exactly match up with the technical information, right? And then you had the people, the technical people. these are the people that maybe it was easier for them to prove what wasn't true and why than it was for them to prove what is and why, if that makes any sense. So, and these are like the hard, like Lawrence. I mean, he can prove what isn't true and why it isn't true and give solid facts for that. And it's easier to do that than to prove what is and have solid facts for that, because we're limited to the amount of data we're able to get. You know, we obvious limitation, not to go into it, but so where I see ourselves now is I see ourselves in basically 3 separate camps: the outside, a little bit further in, and then the people who are hardcore. Let's get this nailed down. What's real and what isn't. Throw the rest out.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a pretty close assumption, or recollection of. I mean, I know there's probably more than 3 rings to this circus, but
I'm just
I agree.
simplifying it.
Right. No, I agree that there's people who are dedicated to intense research, and then there's people who just feel that they believe that that they know that the Earth is flat, and they don't really need proof or a model or a map or anything else. They're confident and comfortable with just knowing that. And then, I'd say there's those who have looked at the proofs and understand most, if not all, of the proofs, but they're not actually mechanically getting in there and researching. So, Lawrence, you're one of those people in the center ring, I would say. So, what do you you're looking back on the last year, and I know you've been doing this for quite a lot longer than that, but at the same time, you've had a lot more company in the last year. How do you go back and look at review the last year of research from your standpoint?
Well, it was around this time last year, coming after Christmas and what have you. Flat Earth was, I'd switched off for it for 3 months because I was drained out from it. I was burnt out. Furboss, Flat Earth burnout syndrome. And then Mark Sargent came along, of all people. And, like him or hate him, Mark Sargent did inject an awful lot of interest into it, and I was sending him a few emails. And that sort of rekindled my enthusiasm for it. So I went and did another talk. I'd done a talk a year previously and did another talk. And it just went wild. There was just video after video and all these characters coming out. Some of them, they were treating it like a big joke. And, and as the year drew on, I thought, I started looking at, what we were actually saying to people, and some of it didn't add up, which is what, before, around about the time I got in touch with you, I was going to do a rival show to Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, not a rival show, but something that's going to give people something serious rather than, talking about pets and the like, So, Patricia Steer burst onto the onto the scheme, not the steam, on the scheme. She burst onto the scheme, and it was, hello and welcome to Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. My name is Patricia Steer, and tonight my special guest is Mr. Flash Earth. He's just coming on. Just a minute.
Oh no, what is he doing now? Oh my God, Lord. Okay, well, here we go.
This is the real Flat Earther here. Isn't it real news? We will exterminate all those people who think the Earth is a ball. You must be absolutely out of your mind. You will be exterminated. The Daleks are going to come and get you.
No, we've got all these crazy guys coming on, didn't we? I mean, how can you take people seriously when somebody wears a bloody stupid mask and talks in a silly voice for a whole hour? And even Mark Sargent rang somebody up who was on Planet Zog or somewhere, and the guy talked in a stupid, voice for the whole bloody show. It's sort of bringing flat Earth into farce, isn't it? And then we got Eric Dubay coming along, camping it up and saying, "Hello, welcome to Flat Earth. Hey, Patricia Steer, in case you just joined us, this is Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. And I'm Patricia Steer. And my special guest tonight is Mark. Hi, Mark. How are you?" Hi, Patricia.
Okay.
No, but you're doing all that. This is the Eric Dubay, the serious, and Star Gods. I love Star Gods. He's just got this laid-back sense of humour, hasn't he? And he's doing. So you've got him taking the piss out of Patricia Steer, and now you've even got Daniel Pratt doing it. He's taking the piss.
Okay.
So I like Daniel.
All right, you need to.
He does all these impromptu, YouTubes, and he always ends up talking about NASA. No, NASA, we never went to the moon. That was it. We didn't go to the moon. I hate NASA. If we get NASA, we've sorted it out.
Mark, you knocked your webcam off the.
Oh, did I?
We're hardly able to see you with your.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
With your costume on, you did a minute ago.
It's about all the different personalities.
So I guess what you're trying to say is that the seriousness has gone out of Flat Earth.
Yeah, well, we're quite serious about it. Where did you go? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It has, and we get hammered for what we say, and because all we're doing is telling what we perceive to be the truth, which makes the most sense. But some people, they just. It is a bit of a cult for them, It's a happy, clappy, come by our club, let's all stick together and love each other, and, let's not worry about the shape or what the map looks like. Let's just go with the dome, it looks nice.
Okay,
It seems that the interest in that has dropped off. It does seem the interest in that kind of thing. If you look at their video numbers of all the people that made videos in the past, serious drop in audience, I'd say.
You mean to the entertainment types? Is that what
I think all
you're
of them.
referring to? Yeah.
No, just the subject in general across the board.
Well, I would say that would be based on would be a result of the fact that there's so many other people doing videos now compared to a year ago. And I mean, a year ago, you had probably a top 10 or 15 YouTubers who were the most prevalent names and manufacturers of YouTube videos out there. And now you have hundreds of channels and people doing it. So it's the saturation is pretty much hit the wall. But one of the things I wanted to, talk about is, of course it's gone from serious videos mostly. There's still a lot of those, but it's turned into a hit parade and an entertainment, flat earth entertainment. I can't say that I didn't expect that to happen, because there's always going to be somebody who's going to make entertainment out of it. One of the people that I just watched. What?
It's bad entertainment. If it was good entertainment. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The idea of entertaining the flat earthers is quite valid. I mean, obviously we've now seemed to have adapted or adopted our very own channels for our own insider entertainment and watching less television and movies and that kind of stuff, and watching more YouTube videos and so on, which is great as long as the information that the YouTube videos is putting out there is correct and real. The problem that I see that happened, and it's kind of a catch-22. If I go on some of the YouTube groups and I see bad information in a post, or misinformation or disinformation, and there is a difference. Misinformation, I think, is mostly just by didn't mean to, just passing on something that's a myth or unproven versus something that has been verified. That's misinformation. Disinformation is kind of different. I mean, it has intent to disinform, to misinform. And so, but when I see that stuff, I mean, I don't just sit there and grind my teeth, and I don't just keep scrolling. I find myself compelled to answer to it, to make a comment about it, to say, yeah, where's this proven thing about the ice wall? How do you guys keep talking about this 2-mile high ice wall all the way around flat Earth when there's zero proof of that and zero evidence of that, but yet you just keep posting it, you keep talking about it. And, you know, the same thing applies to the dome, for example, you know. So as I'm scrolling through and I'm seeing these posts, I can't help myself. I have to say something. And then, of course, then I look like the you know, blue meanie coming in and dissing their post. Or even if I ask a question like, where's your verification for that? Or have you ever seen any proof of this? Or any of that? Then, you know, oh, you're no fun. You're such a buzzkill. So I've actually started putting a little arrow toward my icon, my profile picture when I do a post. You know, here's my little picture. I make a little arrow with in parentheses, buzzkill alert, meaning, sorry, you're probably not going to like my little comment here, but I can't help. I mean, I'm not going to ignore it. Okay, so that's a big part of my unhappiness, I guess, with the year in review, because a year ago, if you saw something that was disinformation or misinformation, you just called it out and it was no problem because you had a ton of trolls everywhere and shills everywhere and everybody going after everybody. And then as the years gone by, it's become this, can't we all just get along? Can't we all just be friends? Can't you just ignore my disinformation? Is what I feel, you know? What do you think about that, Lawrence? You're another one. You're like me. You call people out and say, well, you know, what's up with this?
Oh, well, I get called all sorts of names, you know. But I still get embroiled in the odd discussion with the ball earthers, and I did that show with Nathan Oakley the other week, and the latest comment, this guy is calling me a rather grubby soul, so I sent him a nice message back saying, thank you so much for those kind words. It gives me the inspiration to carry on researching the flat earth, the fact that you call me a grubby soul, forget what else I said. So, you know, try to make him feel bad, you know, because you start calling people a grubby soul, I mean, you know. It's
all right. Well, okay, so let's talk about this aspect of year in review. A year ago, when I first created Flat Earth Conspiracy group on Facebook, there's a closed group which is just only allows bona fide flat earthers, and then there's a Jim, I'm going to mute your mic. You're making noise. There's a bona fide flat earthers only in that group, and then there's also a public group which allows, you know, a few people who aren't truly, they're still on the fence, so to speak, and you know, a couple other groups and a page or so and a website, and I really got into it, and I was just gonna, you know, spread the word and spread the news and be a real advocate and you know, dissident for the flat Earth movement. And as the year has worn on, I'm still trying to do that, but now it's become like we have to be politically correct, so to speak, in talking to each other, with each other, in the groups, and so on. And I'm, you know, I'm wondering, where did this political correctness thing come into play, because if you say anything against anyone, or you say anything against what someone is proposing as far as flat Earth research, you're a bad guy, and you don't get to dissent. And I don't understand if that ideal coming from a large group of people who consider themselves awake. And to me, awake means you get it, that there's disinformation running around everywhere and everything needs to be questioned. I mean, how many times can you repeat, question everything, question everything? So, but a year ago, I thought by now we would be much more prevalently mainstream. I also believed that it would be part of the science dialogue going on out there, and yet it was like one little big, to do about B.O.B. and Tila Tequila coming out and talking about flat Earth, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out dissing everyone and dropping microphones and acting like a butthead, and the next thing you know, the media is hardly talking about it anymore, and it's done. It's like they decided it's done. Well, it's certainly not done. That's for damn sure. What do you guys think is the future of media? And Jim, I know you have your finger on the pulse of that because that's sort of your bailiwick with online information and so on. So what do you see is going to happen next with regards to general media recognition?
Well, if you can just do something very simple, and if you have a Gmail account, you just set up a Google alert for the words flat Earth. And that way you can keep up with this. That's just a very simple way of doing it. And what I've noticed is that people are using the phrase flat Earth to promote articles that have nothing to do with flat Earth. So there's enough interest in the topic where the words flat Earth are a hot keyword if you want to look at it just from an SEO standpoint. So the words are going to appear, the topic's going to appear, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not just the fact that people are talking about flat Earth. Again, it's going to come down to the details, because if you're going to look at it as the truth apart from entertainment, people want to know, what are we living on? People that harp on NASA, or whether we went to the moon. I mean, all these topics are tied together. So if you can avoid getting burned out on it, I think that there's still going to be little. It's not going to die in the media. In other words, it's out there too much right now to just completely fall off the radar. But if you're looking to monetize flat Earth and make money from it, then you've actually shot yourself in the foot. And I'm just throwing this out there from being in marketing for almost 20 years. Let me tell you why. Because people can get flat Earth information for free. They don't have to pay for it. And when people are used to getting something for free, and then somebody suddenly puts a paywall in front of it, do you know what happens? So the people that went out and bought all kinds of domain names and in the hopes of cashing in on the subject, if they don't realize it now, over the course of the next 12 to 24 months, it's going to hit them big time that they're not going to make their living selling flat Earth information. So that's the other side of the media. This is not a money-making business opportunity. As much as some people may want it to be, if they haven't already realized it now, if they've been in it for the last 12 months, that's just the reality of it. Back to you, Lori.
Lawrence, what do you think? I think Lawrence's camera might have frozen. Can you hear me, Lawrence?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. What do you think the importance is of, I hear a lot of people say, what difference does it make what model we are talking about, or what map we're talking about, or whether there's a dome or an ice wall or any of that stuff? the other proofs are what's important, that there's no curvature and that the world's not spinning and so on, with observable proofs. The one thing we can't observe is we can't observe the flat Earth other than what we see from balloons going up, weather balloons, or from an airplane ride, or we obviously don't believe that the film footage that we're supposed to be seeing from the International Space Station is true and correct. So how important is it, Lawrence, to you that when the media talks about flat Earth, that they show people who haven't seen it before some kind of real version of what most or some of us believe?
How important is it that they show us something that we could believe? For the ball, you mean?
No, for the flat Earth. Like, for example, every time you see flat Earth proposed on one of these media things, that comes out, they show the AE map and the sun and moon going around and the little dome.
They're still doing it.
How important is it that that's right or wrong?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, the thing that gets me is that they were so dogmatic about it, but it doesn't stack up. And even though they know it's a pile of poo, they're still hanging on to it and trying to back engineer solutions, crazy theories to make it fit. So there's obviously an agenda to push this false model. And what that true agenda is, I don't know. But there's obviously, we've always seen maybe plan B in case it gets out. If it does get out, then we're going to have this version of flat Earth with a dome and a sun that goes round in a big circle every day. That's what they want, and they're pushing it all the time. Even Russian vids brought out another video today with the frigging, the false model, and that's it. But they miss out on the biggest, or most obvious that any child can tell. So I said to you, Jim, Laurie, have you got a piece of paper there? Imagine you're ball earthers, and I say to you, so you think you live on a sphere. We all live on a ball, all right? So all I want you to do is get a piece of paper and draw me a sketch and show me how somebody on the North Pole and the South Pole can both stand up at the same time. That is the truth as far as you're concerned. So if it's the truth, you should be able to show me in a model. So go ahead. Here's a piece of paper. Here's a pencil. Draw me a little sketch. Or draw me a sketch that shows how a boat can sail north without going uphill or downhill going south, or on its side going from east to west, which is what it'd have to do if you're on a ball. And these are the ones that just never get talked about, and they're so obvious. You don't need to prove any other things, because if you live on a ball, then life has to be as though it would be on a ball, and in all forms of getting from transport. If you're going from one place to another, if you're living up in the northern hemisphere near the top, and you go down to the southern hemisphere, then you've got to be upside down. Otherwise, it's not true. And that isn't done. We try and focus on curvature using math, which in my view is, that 8 inches per mile squared is only applicable if you're starting at the top of the dome. It's not applicable if you're starting halfway down, because then the curve's got steeper. And if you're starting off at the equator, you're looking over an abyss. And you're just going to fall off the edge. That's what, you should have buildings coming out at 90 degrees at the equator.
Well, but Lawrence, we can't even convince people that the sun is moving in a straight line. They automatically believe that the sun is flying around in a circle, zooming around in a circle, a tighter circle on the inside of this AE map and a wider circle on the outside of this AE map, and that there's a ring of ice around the outside and that there's a dome over the top of it. And that's what they saw, and that's what they continue to see over an entire year. I've seen it, I bet you, several 100,000 times. This same projection, this same image of this round map and the sun and the moon going around in a circle and they're always opposite of each other. You know, here's this circling sun and moon going around, and then I watch and I think, well, but they're not always opposite of each other. Sometimes the sun and the moon are visible in the sky in the same day. That has nothing to do with whether the earth is round or flat. That's an observable fact, okay? So then, but none of these models have that. Some of them have the sun kind of catching up to the moon, or the moon looking like it's catching up to the sun, but they're not going in a circle. Nothing I can observe says they're going in a circle. But yet, for an entire year, I have had that imagery pounded into my head from my own fellow flat earthers, not from NASA, not from the media, not from some science National Geographic program. Nobody outside of the flat earth movement is pounding that into my head. That's all internal, okay? And so as a person who no longer believes in that, or, you know, I never actually really believed in it. I just saw it and thought, well, this is the historic flat earth model, until I started to question, whose historic flat earth model? Where did this come from? And then you start to investigate, did this come from the flat earth community itself? Supposedly, it came from Robotham and the early Flat Earth Society and the Zetetic society group, and it's supposed to be based on observable facts. Well, then why do they need a different kind of a sundial at the equator? Because the sun doesn't go in a circle, it goes in a straight line, and twice a year, when it's over the equator, and this is where I get that sort of dyslexic thing. That's true, right? Twice a year, it goes over the equator, exactly. Okay. Then the, you know, we just keep adding in all these issues. I mean, everybody's going, whoa, look at this awesome video by Rob Skiba. He proves the AE map with the southern distances because he says so, because he did this math that shows that the AE map little squares, they're funky squares that end up from the latitude and longitude lines as you make a pie out of this circle. He shows that equidistant means equidistant, and the little bitty ones up at the top or in the center are actually the same size as the ones on the outer perimeter. It's just that this is an equidistant map. Well, dude, if you're claiming that, then you know what you just said? You just said the same thing Lawrence and I have been saying for months now, that the distance of the southern latitude lines and longitude lines are the same distance apart at the south as they are at the north. How does that prove an AE map? What you're trying to prove is that it's a globe. Your explanation says it's a globe. It doesn't say it's a flat map. And you can, you know, reverse engineer an explanation all you want, but everybody's like, oh, see, Rob Skiba said, and then because he said it in this very confident, very mathematical, very scientific way, you want so much to believe that it now, that's all you needed. You just needed another different kind of explanation.
It bothers people that there are gaps, and they would rather fill the gap with a piece of wrong information that's a little bit right than have nothing at all. And see, that's where most of the problems are coming from with what we've seen over the past year, is that nobody wants to say, I don't know. Because as soon as you say, I don't know, people will stop listening to what you're saying, and they'll move on to somebody else who says, I do know, and they'll present something. So just from a and again, I hate to look at it from a marketing standpoint, but being that that's what I've done most of my life.
Look at it this way. If Mark Sargent can say from a gamer's standpoint, then you can say from a marketer's standpoint all you want.
I mean, if you're going to look at this for what it is, then it's just better to say we don't know about this or we can't say than put out a piece of information that's not quite right. Because even a good lie has elements of the truth in it. That's what makes it believable. And so if it's either the truth or a lie, right? A piece of information, it's either true or false. Something in it, if it's false, that means there's something in it that's not true. Just basic definition. So if you put out something that's almost right, then you're just propagating a new lie that's more to your taste than the lie that you had there before. So just to get rid of the ball earth model altogether and fill it with something that's almost there, you're just doing the same thing that people have been doing.
That NAPSA's doing.
Yeah, you're just a different flavor. That's all. You're just putting out a different flavor than they are.
Okay, so I'm one of those people who's okay with saying I don't know. I really am, because I so dislike what I call bullshitters, for lack of another word. My bullshit detector is always on full blast, and if you say something and something about it just like go no on the bullshit detector, then all of a sudden I've stopped listening to you, and I'm now in my brain. My little people are talking up there. They're holding court, and they're going, don't you think that thing that he just said a minute ago was bullshit? Now, how am I supposed to believe any of the rest of this? Okay? And so, but if you ask a question, then you get the look of, oh, you're just going to be contentious, okay? Or if you disagree and say, I really think we need some more information on this, which is completely fine and would be absolutely expected in the scientific community, right? The idea is that one of the things that, where's the noise going on in the background? One of the things that has bothered me about the whole globe Earth transition to the flat Earth is that I can't disregard all of the stuff that that I heard about the globe as far as the proofs, as far as the observable facts. So if I'm looking at something that I'm trying to re-explain about flat Earth that doesn't seem to work right, okay, I have to figure out a way to make it work with the same observation that they sold us the globe with. Okay, for example, it wasn't very big of a stretch to tell people the reason why the sun goes down is because the Earth spun around. The sun's in the same place as it stays there, it's stationary, and the Earth is spinning around, and that's why it's coming up and going down and coming up and going down. And that's sounds completely plausible. And so it's like, oh, okay, makes sense to me. And unless I can come up with another reason why that doesn't work, then I'm sold. Let's move on to the next thing, okay? That's what's been happening with flat Earth, as far as I can see, is that instead of taking all of the observable facts and retrofitting them to explain them into a flat Earth, we're stuck with this round circle, sun spinning, ice consuming, dome-covered map, and then we got to try to make all of these problems that don't fit in that somehow, okay? And all the while, the media is going, ha, 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 you guys are gullible, you're crazy, you're conspiratards, and, all we have to do is sound smarter than you are by a little bit, and the rest of the people who haven't even bothered to look into flat Earth yet, they always want to be on the winning team. I mean, why do you think there's such a thing at the horse races as the favorite? Because more people think that's the horse that's going to win, so everybody bets on that because it's much more likely that it's going to win, and you're going to get your money back or a few extra dollars on top of that. And that's what this flat Earth argument has evolved into being about.
What's the average age of a flat earther, do you think? Between 20 and 30?
Absolutely not. The average age of a flat earther is between 30 and 60. 30 and 35 and 55. I don't know. More baby boomers than probably any other, which would stand to reason. But most of the people that are awake, in general, are middle-aged, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, waking up is a generational thing, isn't it? Because most of today's young kids, they're not woke up at all. They're just glued to their iPhone when they're stood in a queue or in a shop or anywhere. You know, their whole life revolves around their communication methods. And if they go out and they leave their cell phone at home, you know, it's emergency. They've got to go back home and get it. Mm-hmm. So they're more interested in the latest music and anything. You know, they don't look at conspiracies. Very few.
That's definitely a demographic that we have not been able to get a hold of with the flat Earth, you know, growth of the movement. We haven't even begun to tap that market.
They have heard of it. I mean, I was in a restaurant the other night and I was talking to the waitress and I said, have you heard about the flat Earth? She says, yeah, it's all over Facebook, or it's a globe. So they are hearing about it because it's everywhere. You know, even if you're not even a conspiracy theorist at all, some of your friends are going to be, and you're going to see it in the newsfeed. You know, so you can't get away from it. If you look at flat Earth in the newsfeed, I mean, all mine's flat Earth. You know, 99% of everything that looks flat Earth or some other conspiracy. There's very little conventional stuff there because I haven't got any conventional friends.
Right. Well, I've been watching that evolution happen as well. I've been watching people. There was somebody actually posted in the group yesterday or the day before, said, if you're a flat earther, friend me, because I'm ditching all of my non-flat earth friends from here on out because I don't even want to talk to them anymore because all they do is make fun of me. All they do is mock me, and they mess up my posts on my own wall with their anti-flat earth stuff and their trolling. So I'm done, and I only want flat earth friends. And I, you know, I'm like, is that good or is that bad? How are you going to get to any new people if that's your intention? But actually, that's not their intention. They have given up on outreach to non-flat earthers at this point because they're burned out of being made fun of or disowned by family members or attacked, or whatever.
That's happened with almost everything, though. I mean, right. The Republicans have their group, the Democrats, the conspiracy people have their group, and the 9/11 people have their group. Everything has become like little compartments now on places like...
Which is exactly according to plan.
Yeah, it appears that way.
Yeah, the entire so-called truth movement is divided between those who are flat earthers and those that are not, and they don't mix anymore. You know, because the flat earthers don't give a toss about chemtrails anymore, or you know, who shot JFK or what happened on 9/11. It's just old news, and you know, most of them are focused on flat Earth stuff and watching the videos, and some of them watching the stuff 18 hours a day when they get into it. So it's totally polarized between the two camps, and that's how it is. You know, if you're a flat earther, you're a nutter. If you're from a glober's point of view, and that's how it is. And it's, you know, but that just shows how big flat Earth is. Nothing else has come in the past and split an entire community into two. Because prior to flat Earth, everybody was together and you could talk about anything, but you can't talk about this to some groups. That's where we're at. So that shows how big it is.
Well, okay, so I'm sending a message here to someone real quick who may or may not come on, but
well, while you're thinking about that, Laurie, the big, if you remember last week's show, I just touched upon it, and the thing is, spring equinox and autumn equinox, you go on time and date, and say look at somewhere like Nuuk, which is about latitude 65, and a similar latitude, or maybe a bit further south at Casey Station. Both of those places are having the sun rising virtually purely in the east and setting in the west to within about 2 or 3 degrees. Now, in reality, one should be seeing it from the northeast and the other should be seeing the sun from the southeast, but they're not. We can't explain that at the moment, and that is one of the big arguments that all earthers are throwing at us, saying, please explain this. I mean, they never explain it on the globe, but we need to start doing some personal research with a compass and see whether this is true. But you can go on time and date and look for yourself on 20th or the 21st of March, when night and day are balanced out, and everywhere the sun's rising in the east and it's setting in the west. And that's not possible on any map unless the sun is acting in a way different than how we understand it. So, that's what we need to... That's a problem we've got. So I admit that's a problem which we can't explain at the moment. But there aren't many people out there even mentioning it.
Yeah, well, and you can't ignore it. I mean, if there's a problem, we have to address it, and we have to figure it out sooner or later. I mean, if you want to make up stories as to why something does or doesn't work, we get made fun of because we say, well, what if there's two suns, or what if there's a pyramid over the top and it's reflecting something back, or there's all kinds of explanations, but nothing enough to form a hypothesis out of. And so, but at least we're openly talking about it, and I'm sure the government's little agents are watching. Hello, hi, little troll, hi. Hope your juicy juice is cool. And the idea of them listening in on what our problems are, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. If we don't talk about it, then we're not getting anywhere. And if we do talk about it, then, likelihood they're going to come up with some rebuttal or explanation for why something works or doesn't. So, but regardless, if we just keep sticking to something that we know isn't true, that we know has multiple fallacies to it, like the sun going in a circle, for example, and the moon too, because it looks pretty and it's simplistic, and it has some ancient Sumerian historical carving somebody found somewhere that says this is how it works, and so they must have known then that something we don't know now. That's evidence. How is that evidence? I mean, you can add it to the pile of information you're looking at, but again, here we are, a year in review, and I'm looking back at February, March, and April of last year, and what I walked into and what I've been indoctrinated with, or attempted to be indoctrinated with, over the past year, and I've rejected the indoctrination. And if you want to get mad at me because I'm calling it indoctrination and propaganda, so be it. I mean, I'm calling a spade here. Jim and I have been rewatching the old series Fringe on Netflix for the past several weeks. We've been binge watching it. Of course, it's 5 seasons, so that's a lot of watching. But one of the things I remarked, we watched it years ago initially, and some of the things I've forgotten, but I wanted to go back and watch it again because I'm sure with my new information, there were some things that I missed because that's one of the bigger predictive programming TV shows, or made for TV shows I've watched in a long time. So we went back to relook at it and see if there was anything we missed, any clues. And every episode, I call out globe, globe. There's another globe.
Yeah, there's a
look
globe in
up
every
the
scene
shelf,
almost.
globe. Every scene there's a globe. Oh, there's a globe.
Every inside scene.
I mean, there's more, and I never noticed a single globe in that show when I watched it the first time. And by now I've seen probably 50.
You know, God, because people start saying, you know, when we start talking about the Pac-Man theory, people are saying, oh, yeah, but you know, you're talking about magic. So I say to people, so do you believe that the Earth was created? And they say, of course I do. So I say, well, wasn't that in itself an act of magic? And you've heard the expression, how did they do that trick? How did they do the magic trick? And they say, oh, it was just smoke and mirrors. Well, maybe mirrors is the solution to the East-West conundrum. I think that there may be some kind of mirror effect that takes place on this diamond shape. It's the right shape for having some strategically placed very large mirrors or force fields on that to create the effect that we get. So you can have one sun.
Interesting in that same. I'm sorry.
Well,
in that same show we were watching, they have these characters called the observers, and the observers can come. Well, actually, just to do a recap, if no one's ever watched Fringe, I highly suggest you watch it, purely for the fantasy part, but also to try to wrap your mind around some of the concepts they're talking about. In this show, there is an alternate universe right next to ours, and everyone has a doppelganger. You know, there's another Lori and another Lawrence and another Jim over in this other alternate universe, and everything about the two universes is the same, except for as different events happen and people make different choices, the two different universes have been altered based on the choices that people make. And so in this show, there are these characters called the observers, and the observers can move back and forth from one parallel universe to the other. And on top of that, they apparently can move through time. And the only way that I can describe the time is that all of this is going on inside of a box or a cube or a circle or a something, whatever geometric form you'd like to pick. But let's just say a box for this example, a cube, okay? Inside the cube, all time is there. So apparently, those of us who are human are living on linear time, and those of the observers are living in all time. So they can observe in the whole entire timeline, forwards and backwards. Okay, so if you try to understand linear time, it's not real hard, but you're always moving forward in linear time. We never can go backwards. Okay, but apparently these observers have the ability to be able to do that. So on this flat Earth, how would it be any different if the flat Earth were a ribbon of time? And as we progress down the ribbon, maybe that's where this word infinity comes from, but as we progress down the ribbon and we travel back and forth across the Earth, east to west and back again, we can go so far in linear time, but only can go backwards so far or forwards so far, because it's only rolling out as we progress through time. Okay, there's no need for portals or black holes or any of that with that kind of an idea. But if you try to address it to someone who has already been indoctrinated into the AE circular going around in a circle map, you're not going to get anywhere, because they're confident that they understand this previously asserted model, and that's as far as they need to go. So here we are a year later.
You can only take so much information in before you it just becomes overwhelming. no matter what the topic is. So we've had a year of concentrated flat Earth information going out there, some really good, some not so good. So I think it's just going to keep going. I think looking ahead, if we're sitting here 12 months from now, there'll still be people making the videos and websites and things of that nature. Others will drop off because they were in it for different reasons, and they'll move on to something else. But I think now that the conversation's been started, especially like with you and Lawrence and what you're doing, you just keep on going. You just keep putting the information out, and you really can't worry if some people don't like it or some people complain. You just keep doing what you're doing, and let the pieces fall where they may, because what do you have to lose? I mean, you're not trying to be like the most popular people in the group or anything like that. So I would just keep on doing it, because of all the people that I've heard and that I've been listening to go around this topic every which way, the critical thinking that's being put forth here is much further along down the line than what I've seen in most other places. That's not a slight on what anybody else is doing, and I'm sure I haven't heard everybody, but I would say that you should both be happy with what's been going on and where we are in it, because all things being equal, this is a conversation we wouldn't have had 2 years ago. So I think it's pretty good overall.
Well, that's just.
I think that they are.
2 years ago, we were chemtrails or whatever else topic.
Yeah, I mean, we are having some impact because we are setting the agenda in some respects, in that they're having to respond to what we're doing. They don't very often mention us by name, but I watched Rob Skiba and Jesse Spots on their little show today, their little interview, and they were going back over that Gleason presentation, and Jesse Spots was fawning all over Rob, saying it was the best thing since sliced bread, or whatever you have in the United States. The best thing since hot dogs, or whatever. or popcorn, or whatever. It was the best thing ever. And but at least Rob Skiba actually conceded. He says, actually, it's not a map, it's a timekeeping device. And that's because I totally spammed his video on, it was about 500 comments, and I replied to about 200 of them saying, look, this is not a fucking map, it's a timekeeping device. Here's the link for the patent, go and take a look. And by the way, the map looks totally different to the one you've got now. All this other stuff has been added on later.
Right. If you take, on top of that, if you take the little timekeeping hands, the clock hands off of it, then woohoo! Look at here. It's a beautiful AE map. Yeah. But it isn't. What do you think there's Roman numerals all around the outside for?
Well, that's it. They insist on trying to back engineer it and find a reason to make it acceptable, rather than taking the common sense approach, saying, yeah, it's fucked. This does not work. This is a dead parrot map. It's deceased. It's a late parrot. Map. Just let go of the thing, because it's not just that. It's just not just the air flights that fail. It's the sun. It's everything else. There's so many bloody things wrong with it, and they keep defending it. Just let go of it and say, look, let's go back to the drawing board. And of course, nobody's.
Okay, but here's the upside. Okay, so we all agree that we're not the only ones talking about the problems with the AE map and that it needs to be thrown into the trash bin, and we need to start seriously, collectively looking for map representation. And Lawrence obviously stumbled upon the first the sinusoidal map and then the Collignon map. And we have, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to Free Our Flat Earth episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and you'll see our discussions about that. But thankfully, we're not the only ones that are looking into it. People like Free Energy are looking into it. Other YouTubers who have watched some of our shows, who have commented more than once that you guys are right, the AE map doesn't work, so on and so forth. I don't know what it's going to take I would have thought by now that we would have come up with some other kind of an internationally accepted logo like that UN map is to the UN, a map or a logo for the flat Earth. I don't even care if it's a big globe with an X through it. I don't care what that representation, visual representation is known as a logo. We don't need to have a map. We don't need to have a model, but we do need to stick together on that we all believe the Earth is flat. And we know the couple of reasons why we know that, like there is no observable curvature and there is no spin. Okay, those are two pretty gigantic things. Those two things alone destroy the globe. Okay, and that's pretty monumental. And if I could claim nothing more out of a year's worth of work, and when I say a year, I don't know how much time other people dedicate to Flat Earth, but it has consumed my life. I have a real job. I work almost, every day of the week. I have the kind of job that fortunately allows me to work in, periodic times, like 2 weeks and then maybe off for a week and so on like that. But when I'm done at the end of the day, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. When I'm done, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I turn my computer on and I go to Facebook and I go to my groups and I go, to my YouTube channel and I answer comments and I watch other YouTubes. I mean, I used to have a life before this. I really did, and I've been a researcher for over a decade, and so, is it worth the investment that I've made over the last year? Absolutely. I mean, what else am I going to do? I do still look at world events and things like false flag hoax crap and chemtrails and 9/11 and GMOs and vaccinations and all the other things. But this, to me, has become one of those uncovered lies that I feel if more people saw it, that this epic lie has been perpetrated on mankind, that it would somehow change the world. Okay, that's the idealistic side of me. It could change the world and not change people at all. That's the amazing part. It could change the world, as in it goes from a globe to being flat, but it doesn't change humanity at all. It doesn't change the way we react to each other. It doesn't change the way we accept our controlling government. The old saying about what did animals do before they were penned up in farms? How did they survive without farmers taking care of them? And you realize that's what we've become, a bunch of zoo animals, a bunch of farm animals. And for once in my life, I'd like to see what the world was like without living in a control grid, living in a control system that we've allowed some bureaucrats and some technocrats to set up for us to live in, which is on its way to Hunger Games, whether anybody believes that or not. So that's why I invest my effort in Flat Earth. So we're talking about 12 months, every day, every single day, focused on this stuff. And with all of the upside that I've had, meeting great people, learning that there's other people that get it, that they're awake, that other people care, I've also learned that nobody cares in general. And I say that with a heavy heart because when I say nobody cares, there's somebody out there go, I care, I care, I care. You do, and I do, we do, but we aren't affecting anything with it. So my year in review has about a 50-50 positive negative outcome in my book. 50% is positive, meaning we're getting somewhere. We've woken up a lot of people. There's a lot of new additions, and you know, the camaraderie is pretty good. Even though we went through all those episodes of drama and shill and troll and agent and all that, I survived that. Lawrence survived that. I've been called all kinds of, you know, troll shill names because my viewpoints on things are different than other, perhaps, flat earthers. So, Lawrence, Jimmy, what do you expect in the coming year?
Okay, well, I do think that there is a force for good and a force for bad, and the force for good is putting the information out there so we can actually put together a model that actually mirrors reality, and we can say what's happening. We may not be able to explain how it happened, but we should be able to explain, and that information's out there, and there's millions of people out there looking at it now, and some people get their creative thinking when they've smoked a bit of weed. Some people might drink a little gin. Some people might sip some tea or whatever. But the information's out there. It's not like it's on a computer always. It's out there in the ether. And the thought comes into your head, which is the trigger to make you do some random search on the internet and see where it takes you. And it's surprising what you can actually find out. And you think, how the hell did I end up here? You know, starting off from here. But at the end of it, it helps start to put together this jigsaw. So in my head, I've got a jigsaw of where we are so far, and it's slowly coming together. Now, my hard bit is envisioning a model of how the stars work, but that's because I'm a bit dyslexic in some ways, you know. So I'm okay closer to ground, and maybe I'll be okay with the sun and the moon. But you know, I would go 180 degrees in the wrong direction if I was leading an expedition somewhere. We don't go in the completely wrong way. Occasionally.
Jim, what do you see happening in the coming year?
Overall, or with what we're doing?
That's what we're talking about, Flat Earth.
I think you know, the videos will keep being made, and I think, but really, like I said about those 3 levels of people, I think there's going to be some drop off because with some people they've got enough information and they're fine with that, and they're still going to believe in the flat Earth, but they'll move on to some other topics as far as what they're putting their time into. But I think for the people that really are looking for answers, what the truth is, all promotions, stuff like that put to the side, I think that they'll come up with some fascinating insights as time goes on. I really think, I don't think it's going to stay just flat. I think there'll be breakthroughs, and that there'll be some really good information that winds up coming out. Where it's going to come from exactly, who knows? But I think there will be some good information available as we continue to move forward. Because whatever the topic is, if you really stay with it, you're bound to make progress. It's just how things work.
Yeah, and the ball earthers are helping us because they're giving us some of the shortcomings of the models that we have. So, you know, they're all posting up this AE map and saying, well, the sun don't work properly on your map. So it's causing them a problem as well, and it helps our cause. In that, you know, they can't say that about our map. It's not our map, but the one we're favouring. You know, ours fits the model far better. You know, the reality. So the ball earthers are doing us a favour, and some of the ball earthers, they are as obsessed as the flat earthers. There's a guy called 5 Red Pears, you know, and he's putting stuff out every day and commentating on other people's videos. So they're spending an awful lot of time looking at flat earth videos, trying to debunk them themselves. But the problem they have, they can only cherry pick the few ones that they can actually find fault with. So a lot of them, you know, when I start arguing with them, they just go away because I give them the ones that they can't debunk, and you know, they just bring in a few trolls to try and put me off.
Right.
That's what's
Well, and
happened.
then you have this little game that's being played in the background by you know, I hate to even give him 5 seconds worth of notoriety, but you have people like Omni Eris, for example, who was literally busting on every flat earther, uh, and you know, hello my retards and all that kind of stuff, and suddenly after a long time of that, and he almost couldn't go a whole week without making a flat earth, anti-flat earth video. Suddenly he shows up with Patricia Steer and Mark Sargent having drinks and or dinner or something for 4 hours, and he's suddenly a flat earther.
I got to throw this in there. I was just wondering about this. Suppose the flat Earth is proven without a shadow of a doubt, where everybody believes in it now. The ball is thrown out. What's the domino effect that results from that? What happens?
Oh, it's huge. What are you talking about? I mean, it's gigantic.
How does it happen? Did you ever think about that?
How does the domino effect happen, or what happens after all the dominoes fall?
Yeah, what collapses first, what follows? I've thought about that a few times, you know? I mean, it would just be incredible what would happen. It would just be incredible because...
Well, I mean, my prediction, if and when we could reach a saturation point of enough people who believe in the flat Earth, that suddenly somebody with some serious credibility with these globe believers, like a Tyson, which is what I was just talking about with Omni Eris, he doesn't have any credibility. Nobody really cares what he thinks. But suddenly he's, in my opinion, he's punking the flat Earth community with saying suddenly that he's a flat earther and, you know, apologizing to Jesse Spots for, you know, punking on him so badly and saying stupid things like, well, now all of a sudden I'm watching all your videos, you know, which before he made fun of every single video Jesse made. And so there's going to start being things like, you know, I don't know if that's real or if that's a hoax or if he's being sarcastic or, you know, but let's say, for example, what you just said, a domino effect happens and a saturation, a tipping point of people start to believe the Earth is flat. Oh my God, it upsets everything. It upsets the space program, for one thing, okay? And not so much the, you know, we have a hard time convincing people that there are no satellites, for example. You know, Lawrence and I have talked about this in a prior show. There very well could be satellites hovering under motor, under, you know, power up there, flying around. I mean, not around, but the length of this flat Earth timeline. If you just had the very long ribbon of flat Earth, okay, they could be up there going with us. The same would be geostationary if there ever was such a thing, right? So I, you know, if suddenly that went back on the table, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the space program, there's a firmament, there's an enclosure to this thing. There's no two ways around it. Whether it's shaped like a dome or not, it isn't, in my opinion. But there is. It could be a box, a cube, a square, a diamond. It could be anything that's the enclosure. But the science books, the maps, I mean, the schools, I mean, everything that we know of is associated with the globe. Everything tied to the globe. Everything. And it made me realize that much more when I, you know, was watching this Fringe show again, and episode after episode, there's a globe on the wall, there's a globe on the table, there's a globe on the shelf, and so we've take all those away, take all that away, take everything away associated with the globe, and humanity doesn't change. Nothing on the ground changes, really. I mean, it is what it is. Our reality is what we live in every day. Buildings aren't certainly suddenly going to fall down or move, or you know, trees aren't going to uproot and fly off into space if the world's flat. But it's going to be an entire revision of the indoctrination that's been going on for hundreds of years. And we're going to have all new science, period. Physics, mathematics, all the cosmology, all of the, you know, Hubble space telescopes looking off into 400 million miles away and looking at fancy painted, what do you call them, other cosmos or whatever. I mean, it's like all of that's new, all of that's tainted as bullshit now, right? I mean, it's all up there, but it's not what they say it is. So
yeah, I think it's going to take quite a long time, Laurie. Think about it in these terms. So I got into conspiracies from finding out about the moon landings being fake, which was, I don't know, around about 2000, 2001, or that I first started looking into it. But for most people, you know, generally speaking, the moon landings became sort of common knowledge probably 10 years later, more like 2010 rather than the year 2000. So, you know, it could take 10 years for this to bed in, and there'll be a lot of acceptance in it. There's a problem with a lot of the Globers. This is just going to keep nagging and nagging at them, and they can't let go of it anyway because they're determined to prove that the Earth is a globe. But then they're running into all sorts of things that they can't prove and questions that they can't answer. And a lot of them will actually come round to be, they may well be, it's like the non-smokers or whatever, they'll end up being the biggest advocates for the flat Earth, because
well,
they've tried so long to debunk it.
Yeah, if you can't disprove it, which really no one can disprove the Earth is flat any more than you know, they can disprove faith. Okay, so with regards to the Globers, you know, what they failed to realize is that we all were Globers before we became flat earthers. We rejected the globe, okay? I didn't have a problem letting go of the globe based on ego, like a lot of people do. They run right smack dab into their own ego that says, I can't believe you were stupid enough to get punked by this whole globe thing. And even though we started being indoctrinated from the time we were 5 years old and first walked into a school, a public school, another thing that people fail to realize is there are cultures and religions all across Earth that believe it's flat, still, always, never stopped, okay? And it's like, don't they matter that they never bought into the globe? So there's also people across Earth who have watched the space program evolve, and they can see right through it. They're like laughing, haha, this is so funny. I mean, the guy with the ISS station video with the bendy door, I can't remember his name right now, and I apologize, but it's the most hilarious video showing these astronauts going in and out of the space station with this flippy bendy door that's like, you know, going flopping around like that, and it's like, really? And that's supposed to be an airtight door and space vacuum tight door? So there's lots of people who are at least geocentric, and lots of them who at least believe that the Earth is flat to the degree that they don't think we live on a ball and never did, a spinning ball, when they never did. Add those to the mix. This phenomenon of flat Earth is predominantly Western countries that have been so harshly and fully indoctrinated into believing that we live on a spinning globe, and that the whole space program is so,
If it carries on in the way it is, then the way this is going to be different to anything else is that once people get into it, they're into it. Most people are into it for the rest of their life, and they're going to keep talking about it. So it's always going to be in everybody's face. And it was like I kept seeing this thing about Bill Hicks being Alex Jones, and I kept seeing this thing popping up on my Facebook account, and I ignored it for 6 months. And then one day I thought, well, I'll just have a look. Load of rubbish, probably. Have a look. And, it was about an hour's documentary at the end of it. I think, fucking hell. When you look at Alex Jones or Bill Hicks when he was at Waco, that's frigging Alex Jones. And Bill Hicks is Alex Jones. But I wouldn't look at it, because I thought it was ridiculous at the time. And it's the same with all the people who are ball earthers, and they keep saying this flat earth, it's flat earth rubbish again, flat earth, and they'll get so fed up of it at some point, they'll say, well, I'll just have a look. Let's get this out of the way. Have a look. And the next thing you know, they're hooked and telling all their friends. And then everybody gets even more and more fed up because the volume of flat earth stuff is just going to dominate the airwaves, isn't it? And that's probably what's going to do it.
Yeah, I've actually never seen another conspiracy theory, for lack of any other comparable term for it, like the flat Earth movement that has popped up. I've never seen any other one that has had the domination that flat Earth has had. 9/11, yes, all day long, all year long. It sure has been there for 15 years, but mostly around 9/11 anniversary every year. And as time's gone by, they've added more information, they've added more proofs, they've added more, what about this and what about that, and in-depth documentaries. But as far as passion is concerned, true, heartfelt, really want to get it out there passion, I haven't seen anything like Flat Earth. So in the coming months and year, I believe that anything that has that much passion is going to wax and wane with people. People are going to come and go. People are going to become more excited and less excited. People are going to feel burnout. People are going to deal with family and friends rejecting them. There's going to be divorces. There's going to be all kinds of backlash with regards to this issue. And it's not because of the issue. It's because of the passion associated with the issue. The amount of time people are putting into it, the amount of energy and effort and emotion that people are putting into it. So I know that if I lived with someone with the amount of energy that I put into it, if I lived with someone who was totally bashing me about it all the time, I don't know that I would be able to take it. I mean, fortunately, Jim and I, for those of you who don't know this by now, Jim and I are boyfriend and girlfriend, or significant others, or whatever you want to call it. So fortunately for us, we're both on the same team. We're both believers, and we both understand and know that the Earth is flat, so we don't have to argue about that. And that's awesome, but because I know lots of people from throughout the groups that don't have that luxury and are living a very painful existence because of it. But
can I throw this
Jim.
out there?
Mm-hmm.
Just to set the record straight, because I don't think we ever talked about this, but I bought flatearthconspiracy.com, but you've taken the heat for trying to take over Eric Dubé's Flat Earth Conspiracy. So, but we'll just keep putting the blame your way. That's fine.
No, thank you, but thanks for coming out about that after all this time. But it's okay, because I ask you to do the search words, and I ask you to look for the most searched terms, and that's why we bought that website. But then after Eric Dubay put me on the Flat Earth Shill Wall of Shame, which is another topic that I wanted to briefly hit on for a second, but after he did that, I went and bought .net, .org, and something else, right? So now I own it all across the board. But when last summer, the shill wars were in full swing, and I'm pretty sure they only recently, in the last few months, finally waned away to where it's not every week or every 2 weeks somebody's being called a shill. There were a few people that were mostly responsible for that, and Math Powerland comes to mind as probably one of the number one ones after Eric Dubay, with calling people shills and trying to, point fingers at people that didn't go along to get along, and they were pointed out as a shill. I can't even tell you how many times I've been pointed out as one, and I'm still here, and I laugh it off. I don't care, because I know that I don't work for the government. I would never work for the government. I've never even collected any check that came from the government other than my own tax return check, for which I paid in. So there's no way that that's true, so I don't worry about it. I have people that get mad at me because I get mad at them for being buttheads in the group and being mean to each other and being mean to people. So then I go back on the shill list because, I'm being told I'm censoring people and so on and so forth. I believe that the Flat Earth groups on Facebook are a whole nother ball game as far as reality. Not everybody that's a flat earther is in these groups, and it's certainly not for everyone. And the same with YouTube. Not everybody's got a YouTube channel. Most people are quiet observers of flat Earth, and that's okay. But those that are, and Lawrence and I will be the first to say, just because it sounds good doesn't mean it's true. And it's when we come out and say somebody is a shill or somebody's an agent or somebody's an anti-flat Earth truther because they're putting out disinformation, not misinformation by accident, but disinformation, it's not going to stop throughout the next year or the next 5 years, because when I see somebody saying something as fact that is not proven and has no basis in reality and has no observable facts to prove it, then I'm going to call them out. And Lawrence is going to do the same thing. And that's going to keep us on the fringe of flat Earth forever.
When people get called out, they attract a whole new audience. Whoever's being called out, everybody goes to their page or channel or website to see for themselves eventually what that person has to say. So the opposite actually happens. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind. Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind calling attention to someone for disinformation. I want people to verify it for themselves. I want people to go and listen for themselves and see if that sounds legitimate to them or if it sounds verifiable. We take a lot of heat for coming up with some goofy ideas, both Lawrence and I. Oh my God, we were the hit of the meme parade there for a while with, Pac-Man. And we never said the Earth was a Pac-Man. We never said it. We only said that Lawrence found the Pac-Man map on Mark Sargent's, the introduction video to the intro clues?
Yeah, that was on his introduction, and the sinusoidal map was on his map maker's clue.
Okay. So in going and investigating other people's stuff, that's one of the ways that we're finding out who's dishing out disinformation or misinformation and calling it out. So I don't have any problem. There's probably Omni Eris will probably get a whole bunch of people going to look at him. Flat Earth and Hot Potatoes, whatever, is probably going to get some new views today because Lawrence mentioned it or I mentioned it now. That's fine. I don't care. All we want is for people to be discerning for themselves. Look at the information. Go, even if you're not a researcher, go try to verify it for yourself. I mean, that's why we called out Mark Sargent, one time as a liar. I mean, Lawrence used the word, he's a liar, because he said that the azimuthal equidistant map is the official map of the USGS, United States Geological Survey, and it absolutely wasn't true. So are we just supposed to sit back and go, oh, don't say anything, because that's just not really, nice. If you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. Just let it go. Sorry.
Yeah, and we do need more people looking for what you might call the glitches in the matrix, because there's stuff out there that doesn't make sense, and when people start looking at it, eventually it will make some sense. So like that thing I pointed out the other day, I haven't got an explanation for that. In fact, I'll just show you.
Oh, about the webcam thing?
Yeah, hang on, it's nothing.
Oh, we can't do a show without a screen share.
Hang on, let's have a look. Share, let's have a look. Is it letting me share? Have you blocked me?
No.
I'm sharing.
Yeah.
It won't let me.
No.
There we go. Screen share.
Not share. Me.
Oh. Can you do this on my Facebook page? I'll send you the link.
I will be happy to do that, but I know your screen share works. It's over on the side.
My screen share works, does it?
Yes. So, Jim, do you, as somebody who's been watching the numbers on Google, for example, on the hits, for example, on our website, Flat Earth, you've watched
I just lost you.
diagnostics,
repeat
I guess
that.
you call it. Over the past year, you've watched the diagnostics coming through from FlatEarthConspiracy.com's website as
Yes.
far as unique visitors and people that have signed up for the website just to be on the subscriber list or whatever.
Yeah.
Has it kept trend? Is there multiple different trends going on out there?
It's a steady stream of new signups. We get a lot of visitors. I'm actually surprised because we don't update the site as much as we'd like to. But for instance, if we lost our YouTube channel and we lost our Facebook group, we have a lot of people already in our back end where we could just email them and say, hey, come over to the site and we'll continue our discussion on the forum there, or
Right.
whatever, but we won't lose anything.
Cool.
And that's one of the reasons, Facebook owns Facebook. They own everything you put on there, technically. And you can put a disclaimer that these pictures are yours, copyrighted, but they're on their server, and for whatever reason that they want, legitimate or not, they could decide to delete anything. Comments, questions, histories, video links. So we have a backup of absolutely everything that we've ever created.
Cool. There's the picture you sent me, Lawrence. Is that this is just a static picture? It's not a website. If you want me to run a video, you have to send me the video link.
No, I just sent you 2 pictures on Facebook. I don't know whether you can pick them out.
Yeah, it's on camera. It's on screen right now. What do you want to say about it?
Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on. Well, I've got to get myself back on because I can't see anything at the moment.
Because you're frozen, I believe.
No, I don't think so. Where's it gone? Brass stuff.
Okay, so what about this? This is
Here we go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so if you look at that, so I look at this from time to time, see what I can see. So we've got 2 photographs taken a day apart. 24th of March. If you look in the top right-hand corner, 8 p.m. It's daylight still. Then you look at the next one. Have you got the next one?
Just a second. Let me get the next one.
Okay, the next one, if you look again, 8 p.m., one day later, it's pitch black in a day. You know, it went dark over an hour later, a day apart. Now, that shouldn't happen. If you go look at Casey Station today, it'll show over the 48 hours, yeah? If you run Casey Station now and stop it, you'll be able to see that the times are synchronized, so there's very little difference from one day to the next. It's not going, you know, at the same time, it's not dark on one and light on the other.
Okay, so there's the picture right there, Casey Station, 25 March, 8 p.m., and it's pitch black.
Yeah, and the previous one, 8 p.m. and it's light.
Right. So how do you explain that?
Well, I don't, but I think it's interesting, and I'm wondering what the hell's going on.
Okay, well, the only way that you could explain that would be the sun died, and suddenly the day only became a short day, or
something funny's going on.
This camera feeds time stamp on the video is screwed up.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I just think it's something else that we can't explain. I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to put this on.
Okay, so the idea of some of these anomalies, I guess you'd call it, is where we need to continue to do some work. You can't ignore it. You know, if you truly have an investigative mind, rather than ignore it or try to make a video explaining it away or coming up with some ad hoc reverse engineered theory as to why it works or doesn't work or why it should or shouldn't matter, that's been a serious problem with the, I guess you would call it, radicalization of the flat earth community. It is a movement, it is a community, but it is, because it's made up of people who are all independent and all questioning everything, including each other, there's not much working together. There's a few groups of people. Hold on, Lawrence, I got your mic muted. There's a few different people, you know, like Lawrence and I, for example, who work together. There's a few people like, you know, Patricia Steer and Mark Sargent et al., buddies, all working together. And that's, you know, that's great that they're working together. I just wish they would work together with the same kind of information that some of the rest of us are working together on, and not make fun of us. Instead, try to disprove us, if nothing else. Try to debunk what we've been saying. They're all watching our show. Lawrence watches their show. I don't have time to watch all their shows. I wait for other people to report to me or send me a link of something somebody said of importance. We're not interested in watching fluffy stuff and personalities and cult of personality stuff, and having, you know, game shows and little get-togethers like that. That's not what we've been doing. We've been pretty serious most of the time, until Lawrence came out with, what the hell was that you had on your head earlier today, Lawrence?
Well, I bought a fancy dress costume a couple of years back, but I ordered it off eBay and it didn't turn up until the day after the fancy dress party. So I was going to put the costume on and do a full frontal with my Flash costume on and be Mr. Flash, but when I put it on, the zip broke, so I just used the mask.
It was the Flash?
Mr. Flash. Well, I'll tell you what, because, I mean, you know, sometimes you have to be a little bit crazy to get some viewers, so I did buy a ginger wig, and I was going to do an Eric debate, but I wasn't going to do the bony shoulders because mine aren't that bony.
Don't you dare to address Lawrence. I will not. I will turn the camera off if you come on the damn show with a dress on, or whatever the hell that was that Eric had on. What was that, like a pillowcase stuffed around his butt to make a bosom? What the hell was that? And the pigtails and the whole thing. You know,
the thing is, though, no, seriously.
Funny. It's all cute and funny, and I have, as good or better sense of humor as anybody else. But
would you do it, Laurie? If you could get 4 or 5 times as many views, would you be a little bit daft to get the viewers in? Because then they're going to listen. Some of them are going to listen to the stuff you've got to say, and you might not see them at all. So if I sent you a nice ginger wig, you can pretend to be Patricia Steer, and you can interview me, and I'll be Mr. Flash or whoever you want me to be.
I don't need to be pretend to be anyone. I mean, I feel confident and cool enough in my own right. You know, it's never been a big thing for me to be cool.
Well, somebody will be taking you off soon, you know. There'll be somebody wearing a blonde wig.
If somebody wants to come on with a blonde wig, which, by the way, most of this is gray. It's really not blonde anymore. All the blonde is fake. It's, you know, it comes from a bottle. And
because you are Kerry Cassidy, aren't you, after all? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, the blonder I become, the more Kerry Cassidy accusations I get. I mean, why in the hell? Why in the hell would Kerry Cassidy change her name to Lori Frary and come on week after week on a Flat Earth show when she's still on as herself right now? I mean, if you wanted to become, like, do the thing with the Bill Hicks becomes Alex Jones, never to be Bill Hicks again, okay, I could see trying something like that. But she's still Kerry Cassidy, and for crying out loud, she's still out there, okay? So no, I am not, nor have I ever been Kerry Cassidy. And you know, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to be a personality on YouTube. Nothing could be further from the truth. If I could sit and watch TV or, you know, make art paintings or go work in my garden or do any of those other things, I would highly prefer to do that, trust me. Because every time I come on here, somebody makes fun of me again. Oh, she said 347 times, or she's a dumb blonde, or she doesn't know what she's talking about, whatever, week after week, month after month. If I cared, would I still be doing this? If Lawrence cared, would he still be doing this? But at the same time, and I can be funny. I have a good sense of humor, like I said, but I don't take this I don't take this as fun and games. This isn't entertainment. If I wanted to put an entertainment show out there, then yes, I would dress up in a funny wig, and I could paint a clown nose on my face, and and wear a tinfoil hat and whatever else. But that's not what this is about. As a matter of fact,
Laurie, can I just
story.
say?
You can say what
I'd just like to say hi to Mr. Five Red Pears. He's a Scottish man. Well, he's got a Scottish accent, so I presume he's from Scotland. And he does lots of these little pencil sketches telling us how the world has to be a ball. Well, Mr. Pears, sorry, 5 red pears, not just pears. Probably 5 of them. I would like you to do me a little sketch showing me how everybody on this sphere that you think we all live in, how we can all stand up at the same time. That is the truth, Mr. Pears, isn't it? Sorry, 5 red pears. Do me a little sketch on your next little YouTube showing how it's possible. If you can't do it, the Earth's flat, mate. So let's see it.
Yeah, that's a big sketch, though, Lawrence. Okay, so a year in review. I figure probably a year from now, we're probably still going to be doing a Flat Earth show. I figure that by then we either are going to get through to some people between now and then. One of the things that I've been asked several times is, you guys always going after Mark Sargent and Eric Dubay and Matt Powerland and all those guys, and Patricia and whoever else, Jesse and Skiba. I mean, I could go on and on. David Weiss. If I missed you, I'm sorry. If one of those people gets asked to, be on national television, on Fox News or the CNBC or CNN reporting about Flat Earth, if somebody asked me to do that, much as I would absolutely detest having to do that, I actually think I would do it if they told me it's either you or Mark Sargent, or you and one of the other people who promotes stupid crap like Truman Show domes and gamer stuff and whatever else.
I don't think they'll ever do that. I really don't. I know a lot of people believe that, but if somebody was going to come on, I think they would pick a scientist or something like that. Somebody from
a flat Earth scientist.
Right.
Okay, so name somebody like that. You mean like maybe a Brian Mullen?
No, like not an engineer, a scientist, somebody who's in the science community, who has some type of credentials in that same, so it's kind of like
who announces himself to be a flat earther.
It would take something like that. It's almost like conservative versus liberal, and then you take the two highest visible positions in those areas.
Okay, so you're saying somebody like Brian Cox or Degrassi Tyson.
Somebody we don't know. Really, they're not going to take somebody who makes, and nothing against our YouTube videos, but they're not going to take somebody who has a YouTube channel. I think, unless they have, 2 or 3 million.
Well, I'm trying to think of. Yeah,
look how long it took for Alex Jones to get on TV, right?
Right.
It took him years, even with millions of followers, and then he was there and gone, like in a heartbeat. So.
And make sure he made himself out to look like a complete crazy person.
Yeah, they're going to take somebody who's already big in a scientific area. I that's how I see it anyway. I could be wrong, but.
Well, okay, so let's say, for example, if they found someone who had some kind of already credibility who came out as a flat earther. I mean, they did have talk about B.O.B. and they talked about Tila Tequila. Neither one of those people. That's why I'm going by, I personally don't believe they're going to go for somebody like that. Somebody who talks their talk. I think they're going to try to go, because their whole objective will be to debunk it and to make fun of it like they have from the get-go, right? I mean, so if they are going to come after somebody, and the reason why I say I would, because I'm confident enough in what I do know to say what I don't know, and I wouldn't say anything that sounded like unprovable kind of thing. And so if they asked me some kind of question, then I would, unless I knew what the scripted question was going to be, I would say, I'm not a scientist. I'm not capable of answering that question in some kind of scientific form. But I think the real question here is, what about that lack of curvature? I would make sure the talking points got talked about. And so, but that day's not going to happen, because they're going to go for somebody who has those large numbers of followers and who wants to do it.
Who was the guy from the firing line? Gore Vidal debated him on TV back in the, was it the late 60s, early 70s? I can't remember the guy's name. They're both. He's not alive anymore, but he was on the firing line. Do you remember that guy?
No, I do not. So maybe you should Google it before you.
He was from the UK somewhere, but basically they were two intellectual, considered giants.
Okay.
Debating on national TV for. I mean, it was just huge ratings at the time. It was the first show of its kind. So.
And what were they debating? I forget.
Conservatism versus liberalism.
Okay.
And so I can see the same thing happening in the flat Earth if it got to that point, where they'll take two, like I said, names that are recognizable already at the time, that already have huge audiences or can draw a huge audience, and do that. Now, I might be wrong.
See, I don't think we're ever going to get there. I don't. I think they're going to select people who don't have the
clue.
Don't have the talking points down pat, and don't have the wherewithal to be able, it doesn't just take credibility to go on and on one of those kind of shows. It takes, practice of having done that before, meaning, you don't just go on something like that cold and know how to handle yourself.
Well,
You have to be pretty practiced.
William F. Buckley, that was the guy's name.
Okay, there you go. I should have known that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's two things I think that I want to say, and you guys can say whatever you want, and then I think we'll wrap it up. We were going to do an hour, and now we're closing in on 2. So one of the things I wanted to say is, we hear a lot from the fluff community. Can't we all just get along? Can't we all just be friends? So on and so forth. And
don't forget the haters, Laurie.
Which screams of political correctness, which screams of censoring and controlling. In my opinion, I may not say things people want to hear, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to say them anyway. If you don't want to hear it, then don't listen. And the same thing goes for those other people. They're certainly entitled to say whatever they want to say, but if they're going to say it, then they're going to have people like me out there who are going to try to correct them. And it's not that it's about me being right or wrong. It's about me questioning. Do you have evidence to say that? Do you have proof to be promoting these ideas? Don't just say you're entitled to your own theory, because that's the same bullshit of saying I'm entitled to my own opinion. You are entitled, and rightfully entitled, to have an opinion, but it doesn't mean just because you have an opinion that your opinion is correct, okay? If your opinion can be debunked, then now you still have an opinion, but it has been rejected by the rest of us who don't accept your opinion as fact or truth. So that's where it's going to stay as far as I'm concerned. I don't attack people on purpose, and I don't attack people for the sake of attacking them, and actually I don't attack anyone. If it's called an attack, then it's somebody getting their panties in a wad, because all I'm doing is questioning or calling somebody out, and that's much, much different. So in the future, I'm going to continue to do things the way that we've been doing them, and that is question everything, and even question our own questioning and question ourselves. And if we see something that somebody's putting out there that other people are falling into, and then we think it needs to be questioned, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to call it out. So stay tuned for another year of Flat Earth. And I'm going to end on that. You guys wrap it however you'd like.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to be here, and my ears are hurting from having these earphones on for 2 hours.
Join the club.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the weeks and months ahead, and the stuff that you both put out and the guests you have on. So keep on keeping on.
Thanks for adding to the show today.
Yeah, and sometimes I just keep banging this big drum. I'm going to do it myself shortly, but this is a big drum, and this is something that you all can do. Next time you go out to the mall, as it is in America, or the shopping centre as in the UK, go in the camping shop, buy a compass, and then get down to a big field, or if you live near the sea, get on the beach and take the bearing of the sun, sunrise and sunset, and post it on flatearthconspiracy.com Facebook page. Let's get some information together and see if time and date is telling the truth about sunrises and sunsets, because it's important, and that is real research. Your little bit of research helps to put together a big jigsaw, and there's people who flat earthers in Australia, we've got them in America, we've got them in the UK, we've got them in Scandinavia, so we've got them in both hemispheres. Let's gather some information and see if we can make this all fit together so we can make some sense of it.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.
See you next time.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon in the United States.
Okay. Bye and thanks.
Good evening in Britain.